right, so for my policy project, I'm going to be talking about the child care tax credit. So first, we're going to start with the description of this policy and the people who are going to be eligible for it. So first off, we're going to have taxpayers paying for the child slash dependent care to work, look for work, or attend school. Children under 13 or dependents slash spouses who can't care for themselves, and people who must have and the people must have earned income with exceptions for people who are disabled or students. And the type of policy, of course, is going to be a tax credit. It's going to reduce federal income tax liability. And some of the goals of this policy is going to be to reduce the financial burden of child slash development dependent care. It's going to enable parents to go back to work and seek employment, and it's going to further encourage participation in the labor force. And some rules of this policy is going to be expense limits. It's going to be $3,000 for one dependent and $6,000 for two or more. And of course, however much credit you get is going to be in line percentage wise with your income. And married couples must file jointly. And the target of this policy, of course, is going to be working families with children, especially low and middle income households in terms of class. Okay, next we're going to have the microeconomic effects. What this is going to do is going to reduce out-of-pocket costs for childcare, increasing disposable income so you can use it for whatever else you may need. It's going to make employment more financially feasible, especially for parents who might otherwise reduce their work hours to take care of the children. And it's going to encourage families to remain in or enter the workforce, which is going to boost the overall participation, like I mentioned. And it's going to influence decisions like going back to work after having a child or hiring childcare services. All right, so next we're going to have the macroeconomic effects, and the labor market impact of this policy is going to mean more parents, particularly women, of course, who are having the children. They're going to be able to participate in the workforce more. In terms of economic growth, the labor supply is going to be increased, which can lead to higher GDP for the country and productivity overall. It's going to create jobs, stimulating demand for childcare services, supporting employment in daycare centers and other child-related industries, and it's going to increase household stability for a lot of people. It's going to provide families with a more predictable pattern of income, which would reduce economic stress and instability. And right here in this graphic, you can see that it can in Washington D.C. specifically, the annual cost for caring for a toddler can get up to around $24.5 thousand, 24.4 to be specific, and that is a lot of money. So with this policy in effect, you'd be able to kind of take that money, maybe reinvest it somewhere else you need, maybe in housing, invest it in maybe stocks to later on grow your wealth, anything you could really need besides childcare because it would be taken care of. Next, we're gonna have the long-term economic potential, and it's gonna help families maintain steady workforce and engagement over time. It's gonna indirectly support child development if financial stress on families is reduced, and it may improve economic inclusion, especially for single parents and low-income households. So it's going to basically just going to improve the economic mobility for these people because they're going to have the resources to care for the children and consequently put more effort into being economically, prosperous in other facets. And it's also going to reduce gender inequality by enabling caregivers, often women, to remain employed. So now we're going to have equity and costs. So the equity impacts of this policy, of course, it's going to primarily benefit um, groups that have been more disadvantaged historically. It's going to benefit the lower and middle income classes, those families paying for childcare. It's going to help reduce gender gaps in labor force participation. Limited impact on very low income families if the credit is non-refundable, though. And some of the costs, it's going to reduce the federal tax revenue, representing a government opportunity cost, a big one. And it may not fully cover child care costs for family in high cost areas, um, because costs can vary a lot depending on where you are in the country, which will limit its effectiveness. And in this graphic, you can see that with existing policies, uh, credits they still exist, but with this policy in place, it will provide it will provide a lot of money just for these families to support these children adequately, and put them in a position where they have a better chance to prosper uh, within their economy. And so next, we're just going to have our conclusion. And so the recommendation from me in terms of this policy, would be to maintain and to continue spreading the and supporting the child care tax credit, just because it would do a lot for a lot of families. It would improve economic mobility as a whole, and kind of support the groups who have been kind of underrepresented and disadvantaged in this country when it comes to just economic support in general. And some suggested improvements after the policies to make the credit fully refundable to reach those really low income households, be to increase the cap on qualifying expenses, particularly in areas with high childcare costs, kind of like somewhere like Washington, D.C., I talked about earlier, where the annual cost can be extremely high when it comes to caring for children. And considering incentives for quality childcare, promoting child development alongside financial support, just so we can encourage the development, the actual development of these children um, in addition. And the overall impact is going to support working families, it's going to promote labor participation, increase economic equity, and indirectly benefits child outcomes as a result. And thank you. That was my project and my policy. Thank you.